Welcome to the Tuesday workshop at the Thinker community. We've got some sickness going around. Naomi, it sounds like you were ill.
Yeah, I've been, yesterday I was out of bed very little. I kept getting up and I was like, this is stupid. I went back to bed.
That was my Sunday. I
Oh,
I think I stayed on the couch for a good 8 hours before I got up. And every time I did, I regretted it. I was up
yeah.
4 times, I think, off the couch the entire day. I was just had a terrible fever. And then
Oh,
yesterday the fever was down a little bit, but still. So this morning I'm a little slow.
I'm always slow. So it wouldn't be any different. You guys won't be able to tell difference with that one.
I think that's true. Paul's got some sort of bronchial bug.
Oh no.
Started out as the head cold, but the last Tuesday was I had to bow out of the workshop. I'd lost my
No.
voice. I couldn't even talk. And then I got better towards the end of last week, but now I've got the thing where you're just coughing for the sake of coughing, right? Other than that, I feel
Yeah.
fine. But when I wake up and when I lie down, my body just says, "Up, freak out time. Let's cough some more." And after we're done here, I'm headed to the doc in the box to get some antibiotics and put this thing to rest.
There you go. Yeah, I basically just have a head cold. I don't have a fever. I'm crappy okay. My husband and I have the opposite dynamic. Like when he's sick, he just like pushes through and does stuff. When I'm sick, I hide because I know I am a complainer. I am a whiny little brat. I cannot handle anything to save my life. I'm like, I'm going to go hide for everyone else's sanity, for everyone else's mental being. I'm going to go hide myself away to make sure that I do not get anyone else in my mood. My mood's more contagious than my sickness when I'm sick. Even if it's just a little bit, I'm not a pleasure to be around by any stretch of the
At
imagination.
The
least you
good
know.
news about watching this show or listening to it, if you listen to it later on when it's released in podcast format, is sickness is not contagious through content, which means you can be here with us and we're all sick as dogs and you're right as rain and you have no chance of catching it.
Way to wrap us back into the workshop, Paul. So, topic for today: we were batting some things around based on a post you recently read, Paul, and then a dream that I had last night.
With that
Fever
bad
dream.
Chicago
That
pizza.
was that was a fever dream.
It's a weird dream. We'll get into that dream later. You guys can diagnose me.
We'll
But
interpret the dream for you.
yes,
Yes.
thank you. Why don't you
Channel
do
our
that?
inner Joseph.
Mhm.
Yeah, everybody needs a good dream interpreter.
Mhm.
Whatever happened to dream interpreters? They
Jason and
still
the
around?
amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
They're called astrologers now, aren't they?
Oh, yes, that's true. That's probably true. All right. So, Paul, you saw a post about the aggressive pursuit of comfort as it related to aging, but you were thinking about the maturity journey of entrepreneurship.
Yeah. Yeah, because the thing that I have seen, certainly in my time, I'm sure you guys have seen some of this too. The advertising, the marketing, the allure of being in business for yourself is that at some point you're going to get to take it easy and sit on the beach and sip mimosas and on the hood of your Lambo with your laptop there, and you're going to maybe work 20 minutes a day and get paid a fortune. And that may even be true for some people. There may be some people out there, that's what they do. And I just couldn't be less interested in that. Or I don't know if that's the right, is it could be less interested or couldn't be less interested? I never know.
Couldn't,
Couldn't.
Couldn't.
Yeah.
Okay. I could not be less interested
couldn't.
because if you get to that point, that's nice in terms of having a whole bunch of free time, but then what do you do with that free time? Because idle hands are the devil's playground. And if you've got a ton of free time and you don't know what to do with it, I think you're prone to misusing it. So by all means, if you can get to a point where you work 20 minutes a day and you get paid millions of dollars a year, that's great. But then you need to turn your attention to something else that's meaningful. And in this post that I saw, that they were talking about aging, they were talking about the fact that decline and degeneration set in because most people after the age of 30, certainly after the age of 40, become preoccupied with the aggressive pursuit of comfort. And I was thinking about that this morning to put things in perspective. I'm in the sunny deserts of Arizona. So when I say I was cold this morning, I know Jason's probably going to sneer at this because he's currently in sub freezing temperatures in Chicago. But I decided one of the things they listed was that the older we get, the less, one of the things that we stop willingly doing is subjecting ourselves to cold temperatures. We just want to stay warm all the time. And so I felt a little bit like I was doing the right thing this morning. So I went outside for my prayer time and I was wearing shorts, even though it's in the high 30s. And I said, you know what? This will be good for me just to get a little bit of cold air and a little bit of temperature change. Because once I go back inside, it's all nice and warm, and it's going to be warm later on today. And I think it's the same thing. I think if you become successful financially in business, the temptation will be there to do your best to keep reducing the amount of meaningful things you're doing and just keep the gravy train coming. And I would say, yes, keep the gravy train coming for as long as you can. And let's find out what the next meaningful thing is that you can do with yourself. Because what got you to where you are, if you've succeeded with that, is not part of it is hustle. I get that, but a big part of it is claiming ownership and leadership in a certain area. That's the real journey we're on. We're taking ownership of our lives. We're showing leadership. We're solving problems. People are looking to us to provide solutions. So why should we abandon that lifestyle just because we've become financially successful? I don't think that's the purpose of doing what we're doing. And so that's my general opening salvo of what I took away from that post.
What do you think, Naomi?
Still, I really got hung up and went off into deep thought. So I wasn't quite listening to the rest because I got caught on I really love what you said about the more people do, the more success people find, the more they start doing less meaningful things, like the less meaningful things they do. And that to me, I'm watching a TV show right now. I'm on it's something that I watch to fall asleep to because I like to fall asleep to something fun, lighthearted. And it's a really great TV show, but I was like, and these people, they had actually lost a lot of money and it's a very humorous show, and they start finding meaningful connection with each other and with new people because they lost their fortune. And I went into this tangent on that, like how sad is that? How out of touch we get with our relationships, with ourselves, when we take the things we worked for that needed effort for granted, when we're too comfortable. And then I got into, isn't that kind of how God works? Like we stay in tune to him, like he gives us things, challenges that keep us turned towards him. And that brings me to circle back to the entrepreneur side of it, of I think success as an entrepreneur, it could be measured in money, but also could be measured in our own personal growth arc. And I think with that, the arc will turn into a plateau or a downslope if we get comfortable. And I think that's the thing, is if we're not constantly pushing ourselves to do those meaningful things, if we aren't staying in tune with that, if we're not continuously challenging ourselves in those meaningful things in those pursuits, then how are we going to find success, one, in our business, but also within ourselves? I don't know. I went on to a deep philosophical.
Yeah, that's more or less what it is. When we're young, when we're children and growing into adulthood, the absorption and the exercise of our entire being is a natural byproduct of just not knowing, orienting ourselves to where we are. But once you become adults and you've been around and seen a thing or two, right? The temptation is to think that most of what there is to know, if not all of it, which isn't true either. There's always something more you can do to exercise your body, but also your mind and your spirit. There's something new you can learn. There's something different you can try. There's something you're not good at that you should actually become better at. Not to take anything away from the opposite balance, which is stay in the sweet spot and do what you're good at. But you shouldn't completely neglect things that you're not good at. Maybe not spend nearly as much time on those as you do on the things you're good at, but do spend some time on them. And if you have become successful and you've reached a certain point, there are still areas of life and your business and the impact you're having that are deficient. And it's a treasure hunt oftentimes to find out what those are. They're not just right in front of your face all the time.
That's why I love my cubing obsession, because I have a 3x3, a 2x2, a 4x4, a 5x5, and then a 12-sided 3x3, a 12-sided 5x5, a 6x6, a textured one to do in the dark, and this one that changes color depending on the angle you're looking at it, called the impossible cube. And it's totally possible, by the way. Spoiler alert. I don't know. I really love that. It's like you can't, if you sit dormant, you don't want to take for granted the things that you're good at. You want to continue to grow those. Like I love that you said you still want to spend more time on the things you're good at than the things you're not good at, but you want to be growing. It's like God gives us talents to grow, and we can develop talents too. We're not, just because we're not good at something. Who was the one who had was it John Hancock in his signature? Wasn't he infamous for crappy handwriting? And then he has the most intense signature on the Declaration.
I don't know. I don't know the story.
I don't remember exactly the story, but if I'm remembering correctly, John Hancock he did not like his handwriting. And so he worked at it. And he concentrated on it, and he put a lot of effort and time and practice into it. And when you look at the signatures on the bottom of the Declaration of Independence, his is the biggest and most beautiful, because he exercised that talent. He found something he wasn't good at, and he wanted to get good at it. The biggest things that are scariest are the things that we don't know. We're not gonna grow if we don't decide to learn. And I think we don't want to get comfortable, because if we get comfortable, life is a river. If we get comfortable, if we stop kicking, we're going to be going downstream. We're going to be losing our progress if we get comfortable. So we can't stop kicking. We can't stop growing. We have to continue our progress, or we're not going to. Anyway, sorry, another tangent.
What's connecting with me is the human desire to reduce work, reduce our effort, increase our results in pretty much anything, right? We want to maximize our energy, or let's say our strength, with as little input work as possible. We want to maximize our fat loss with as little restriction as possible, as little discipline as possible. We want to maximize our intelligence with as little effort as possible. We want to get instantaneous answers with as little digging as possible. We want to get book summaries instead of reading the books. We want to get sound bites instead of listening to an overall testimony. And I'm about ready to click the button on an AI to give me a recommendation. This ties back in with the dream that I woke up to this morning. The dream goes something like this, and it's a little bit broken. I was giving consideration to AI and whether AI can understand, or whether AI just outputs things. Now, I'm in the camp of AI does not understand and will never understand why it's giving a recommendation. It will have reasons for it, but those reasons are simply based on subsets of our reasons for doing things, because it's only learning that which it has seen. And we did the original production on all the stuff. And then AI makes connections with that which it has seen. So the dream goes that there's a school, and in the school, the children like orange juice, and a parent said, hey, you know what you should do? You should plant some oranges outside the school, some orange trees outside the school, so that children could grab an orange on their way to school, on their way from school. Plus, orange trees are beautiful. It'll beautify the plain space we have there. Also, the students like orange juice and eating oranges, so they'll be able to get access to oranges and orange juice. And some doctors pushed back and said, we don't want to have such easy access to oranges because, we don't want to have to be free drinking orange juice all the time. And then some parents said, plus, we don't want to have a limitation on the number of oranges because not everybody will get an orange. And then some people will feel bad. Some people said, I just like to drink orange juice, and maybe we could just have an orange juice dispenser. And how do you make that fair? Who pays for that? Not everybody can afford the orange juice, so that's not fair. But the school can't afford it. And if we try and tax people to get money for the orange juice to be dispensed at school, there's going to be some other school that doesn't get it. There's going to be some other person who says that's not fair. So what should be done? Should you plant the orange trees and then say, don't eat the oranges? Should you plant the orange trees and let people have at it? And not everybody's going to get an orange. That's just the way it is. Should you put an orange juice dispenser in there? What's the outcome? And I thought, if you pose this thing to AI, what would AI say? Taking into account all of these different variables, having no understanding about having limited understanding, perhaps, about human development and what is best, quote unquote, best for people's development, that sometimes scarcity and the fact that there's not enough to go around is a good lesson of life and just learning to deal. Or no, it's not healthy for you to have orange juice available all the time. So I thought maybe what an AI would come up with would be something along the lines of plant the oranges, but nobody can eat the oranges unless they're given special permission, and everybody gets an equal share in the oranges that they could get. Or if there's going to be an orange juice dispenser, there's a certain amount of orange juice you can have, so you don't go over the recommended amount, and so that there's some available for everybody. And there's subsidies for some people who can't afford the orange juice, and some people can afford the orange juice, so we'll measure that and do it based on an income level or something like that, which all sounds very plausible. It sounds like the stuff that our governments do now, when in fact some people would say, just plant the damn orange tree and shut up about it. I've got a whole paragraph directing AI to tell us what AI would say. But how I wrap this in with what you're talking about, Paul, is we want easy access to stuff. We don't want the mess of making our own orange juice. So we buy orange juice, and then all of a sudden we drink orange juice in bulk, which is just like drinking sugar water, and it's bad for our bodies. In addition, they add stuff to it, preservatives and whatnot, in a lot of cases, which are also not good for us. But the long-term effects, we just push those away and go, it's easy. I get the ease. And that's what I want. I want the benefit without the effort. And I'd like to pay nothing for it. I want my cake and I want to eat it too. And it's promulgated in all sorts of ways in our society. And it's something that we tend to, in a condition of ease or in a state of ease, we desire that. We crave ease. We crave comfort. Sunday I had a fever, and I'm of the opinion that you should let your fever run. There's a reason you have a fever. Mm-hmm. And scientists have questioned that for a long time, and they've got all sorts of studies. And for a long time, they said you should treat your fever because it's not good for you to have a fever. And now they're like, no, actually, you should probably let that fever run up to a certain point, at which point you could probably treat it, because you might be getting in the danger zone, depending on your overall health. But there is some evidence to indicate that in some unknown way, in a way we don't understand, as smart as we are, we still have not discovered what the overall benefits are of having a fever. And yet fevers exist across different animal species as well. It's an interesting, I think it gets back to what's the overall point? What are you shooting for? Are you shooting for your overall character development? Is that the goal? Then you're willing to tolerate some pain. Are you shooting to have painlessness and live a life of comfort? Then you might be short-circuiting some development that you need to have, which don't need to get into it, but there's all sorts of research done on a life of ease creates weak people, and weak people create hard times, and then hard times create strong people, and then strong people, right? Then strong people go, oh, that was a lot of tough. So we then create some easier times, and then those easier times create weak people, which create hard times. And it's this cycle over and over again because of we can't just leave well enough alone.
It's like a generational cycle too.
Yeah, it is.
People are raised in a really harsh way. They don't want to make things harsh for their kids, so they do it all. And then their kids grow up to be really lazy adults who don't like doing anything unpleasant, and they'll put it off on somebody else. So it's a cycle.
And so when you bring this into the world of business, I think now of the challenges and the struggles and all the things I didn't know, all the things I still don't know, and I'm still learning about doing this. And I think to myself, am I trying to put an end to all of that? I guess in a way, as you mature and as you become more settled in it, first of all, it has less power over you. But second of all, if you're becoming successful, yeah, money does make a lot of problems go away. But I heard this recently. In fact, Jason, we had this conversation with our buddy Sam Feeney on the Emissary podcast. He said, money is great at eliminating problems. It's not great at bringing joy, right? It's not great at bringing satisfaction. It makes the problem curve go down. It doesn't make the satisfaction curve go up. And that's where, circling back to the whole thing about maturity, if you find yourself in a place where a lot of life's problems and dissatisfaction have been vanquished by your success, if you are not in the mindset of, okay, there is more maturity, there's more development, there's greater hills to climb, you're in trouble. And I think what you and I, Jason, are working on this year has been a very good exercise for me to stretch my faith a little bit and to say, there's stuff that I've never attempted that I could probably try that's difficult if I don't break it down into really small steps and do it day by day. But if I go through that, I'll come out the other side, I'll have that experience behind me, and I'll know how to replicate it and how to build on it. Those are the kind of things, like, I could easily just say, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing and never really get to what I'm capable of, because I made it all about, well, life is pretty smooth here for me right now. I don't have any problems. The worst thing I got is a mild case of bronchitis. That's going to go away after a short time, and summer will be back in a couple weeks, and I'll be right as rain. Yeah, that's not why any of us are here, I don't think.
I think it does boil down to, where is your long-term agenda? Really the right word. I saw the word agenda. My brain is still in sick mode. But where's your long-term focus? In response to my question about the oranges, AI said this. And I gave it the task that, hey, you're the administrator of the school and you got to come up with a reason for this. You have to give an overall recommendation to the school board, and you have to come up with a reason for the parents. AI said, I recommend planting a small orchard of orange trees specifically for educational purposes, not as a readily available source of fruit for students outside of designated activities. And the reasons are this: health concerns. Offering unlimited orange juice raises concerns about excessive sugar intake, as highlighted by the doctor. Fairness considerations. The mother's point about equitable access to oranges is valid. Having them freely available could lead to conflicts and be unfair to students who don't get any. Financial constraints. Providing orange juice consistently would strain the school's budget, which would impact other important resources. Educational opportunities. An orange orchard offers rich learning potential across various subjects like science, math, nutrition, environmentalism. They can learn about plant biology, fruit cultivation, healthy eating, even local agriculture. Orchard care could be integrated into service learning projects and extracurricular activities. Beautification, the trees would indeed enhance the school environment, creating a pleasant educational space. And then it even talked about how to implement it. And here's how you can integrate it into existing lesson plans. And here's how you can organize some student-led activities. And here are the benefits to all of this. So the recommendation emphasizes education and community engagement while addressing concerns about health, fairness, and budget constraints. Planting orange trees for educational purposes offers a sustainable and enriching solution that empowers students and enhances the school environment. If your goal was to get an afternoon treat, no, you cannot. You can't just walk past it. You can't just walk past in our area, it's raspberry bush. There's raspberry bush. They'll just be sitting alongside a path someplace, and you just grab a little treat on your walk. And sometimes there are some raspberries, and sometimes the birds took them all. That's a fun little treat. If your goal was to have a fun little treat, then the solution presented here does not get you there. If your goal is to teach people about all of these things so as to enhance their learning, okay, then that's what it was. But I think it does get back to, what is your end goal? And how are you sacrificing that end goal by craving comfort? You don't build muscle by being kind to your muscles. You have to beat them up a little bit, and you have to strain them. That will build muscle. And no different than your intelligence. You have to go reason out new things and struggle with them to build new connections and a framework for learning.
I really love what Paul was saying about what you guys are mentioning, what you mentioned about your emissary podcast, and the thing that was said there, the satisfaction goes down. And with what you were just saying, Jason, about how you stop, if you want something that's readily available, then no, because that's not going to be beneficial. They did a study about self-control and about saving up for it versus, oh, just treat yourself. Oh, just do it. Just buy the thing. Just impulsively buy the thing. And yeah, you get a huge hit of dopamine if you just go and buy it, right? But if you save up and you prepare for it and you work for it and you set aside a little bit at a time and you set little bitty goals, you get a dopamine hit every single time you meet one of those goals. You get a dopamine hit every time you set money aside for that thing. And then the amount of dopamine that you get, the satisfaction that you get when you actually receive the item, when you actually buy that thing that you've prepared for, or get that goal, that biggest prize that you're going to get, it's so much more all together than if you were to just get it all at once. And it's so much longer lasting. That dopamine feeds you the entire journey to get there instead of just the one hit. Instead of going with that impulsive satisfaction now, the satisfaction can come along the entire way. And then getting it at the end is so much more meaningful and so much more satisfying if you worked to get it. And then goes with that struggle. If you're not struggling, then the satisfaction of actually obtaining what you're going for, that's not going to happen. And so it goes into, what are your priorities? What, Jason, you were just saying, what are you working for? What's your agenda? What is your goal? If you value money and your goal is to get $1 million, great. When you get that goal, when you work for it, cool. But if your goal is to be a really good person, how do you measure that? What's your ethical code? What do you want to achieve? If you have achievements you want to get that doesn't have to do with money, then that's going to have your drive is going to be different, and that achievement is going to be different for you, depending on what you're working for and how you're measuring that, and what checks and balances you're putting in for yourself, that accountability that you're putting in for yourself along the way for each of those steps.
So what is in view of that? I'll share a couple of things that I've committed myself to doing this year personally that I think are going to do both of those things, because the cool thing about working on the areas where you're not that strong is there's no such thing as instant gratification when you suck at something, right? And I just want to share a couple of practical things here for people, because I think one of the best things we can begin to wind down the clock with is on this episode is things that they can do, examples, right? And I committed this year. I'm a very right-brained, creative type of person. So the easy thing for me to do, the thing I get paid to do, is to sit here in front of this screen and type and write content, write books and edit and all of that. It flows naturally. It's easy. I know how to do it. I'm gifted with it. It's a gift from God. But I'm also, I also am the head of a household. I have a bride and 2 children. And that means that home ownership means there's always something to fix. There's always something not working the way it should, needs to be replaced, etc. You can count on it every single week. And what I committed to doing this year was one new mechanical task every week. I said something needs fixing, something needs repairing, something needs replacing. Moreover, though, I'm gonna start watching a YouTube video each week, learning how to do something. And I'm also going to mute all complaints about having to do it, because I'm pretty good at whining myself when I have to do stuff that I'm not very good at and don't like doing. And that's been really rewarding, because the byproduct is you feel like you actually, when you do stuff like this constructively, you'll feel your brain begin to light up. And you'll feel same thing with the body, right? To do something out of the ordinary with the body, do something that stretches you or drastically changes the temperature. So we started doing cold plunges. We've got the hot tub but the pool isn't heated. So sit in the hot tub for about 20 minutes and then jump into that freezing cold water. That'll shock you. It just wakes you up. So those are some examples. Another thing that I like to do from time to time, I haven't done it for a while, but I think would be a good thing to do, is write with your non-dominant hand. You ever tried that?
Yes, that's something I do every so often. I'm like, what if I just did that?
Yeah. So I'm left-handed, and so trying to do stuff with my right hand, the only thing my right hand is good at is stuff that my left hand doesn't do, right? So I hold the fork with my left hand and the knife with my right hand. So my right hand is good at cutting meat and stuff like that. But anything that I normally use my dominant hand for, try doing it with your non-dominant hand. If you play golf or hockey, which I play, try swinging a right-handed club or playing with a right-handed stick and seeing what happens, right? You'll be clumsy as all get out, but your brain will wake up in ways it never has because it's forced to think about it, right? Oh, okay. It's like working your muscles. So those are some practical things that I wanted to share. Oh, and one more, try learning another language. Now, I'm working on Biblical Hebrew, and it just wakes my brain up, learning how to pronounce that, phrase it, memorize the letters right from the opposite side of the page, right to left. It's remarkable. Anyway, what about you guys?
I really want to learn ASL. That's been on my list. I really like just like that growth, that growth that you want to do, like the things you do to challenge yourself. They did a study of, I think it was CEOs of really big companies in New York versus taxi drivers. And I think they measured their brain mass too. And guess who had the bigger brains? The taxi drivers. And it's because of all of these things that they had to do every single day, all those paths they had to memorize. I learned from a chiropractor one time, of all people. Not of all people. I think chiropractors are pretty smart sometimes. Most of the time. I think there's some smart people in every field and some not so smart people in every field. But I don't necessarily think chiropractors are particularly one or the other. But the point I'm getting at is, I was told that my brain would think differently. Your brain learns to rewire if you take a different route home every time. If you find a different route. And so it's those little things ever since then. And that's, I think, and I go back to cubing every single time because that's a visual thing that I like to do. I really like puzzling. I really like solving puzzles. And I find joy in that. I find joy in those challenges where, what is something that I don't know how to do? What if I could do that? What if I just did it? What if I just learned it? What if I just forced myself? What if I just gave myself a challenge? And there's something about that I think it's sad that social media and everything has been pushing this extreme pursuit of comfort when discomfort is where we actually learn our true capabilities, and that there is nothing that we can't do if we decide to friggin' learn it. I think it's a tragedy, really. It's like the death of a whole mindset that's a growth mindset. It's the death of the growth mindset, I think. So I think that the opposition to that, I think the biggest pushback we can give it is, how do we challenge ourselves to keep growing and to continually pursue that discomfort so we can actually see what we're capable of?
Yeah. Your concept of cold plunges, Paul, some people swear by the idea of a cold plunge because of all of the metabolic benefits of that. And some people say it's probably one of the worst things you could do to your body because it is it is one of the most metabolically taxing things to put your body through. So if you are generally a healthy individual, your body will not suffer tremendously, and it will gain the benefits of your body trying to overcome suffering. If you are unhealthy, it might kill you faster because it is so metabolically taxing. And it's similar to we were talking about, Naomi, just maintaining a growth mindset, that sometimes we need to put ourselves into situations of discomfort for our overall benefit before we get to a place where that position of discomfort is going to kill us or kill our idea or business. So I think wrapping these things together, I think from a practical purpose, one of the things people need to do is figure out why you're doing anything that you're doing to begin with. So are you starting this business because you want to be rich? You will make certain decisions. Whereas if you're starting that business to create value in the world, you'll make other decisions. And those two will come in conflict with one another at some point in time. Then the places or the things you will do to maintain your overall mental, physical, spiritual, emotional fitness, get ahead of the curve on those things. Begin those things early. Whether it's reading, Naomi, you talked about the study of taxi drivers and CEOs. And I think there's some correlation with CEOs that of the number of books that they read. And I can't remember what the average number of books that a successful CEO reads, but it is far above the average of the common man. And it is not things like 50 Shades of Grey. It's books about what other people are thinking, how other people are exploring. And whenever we introduce these new learnings, our brain is forced into a position to integrate them or to not integrate them. And maybe it's a dream where your mind goes about integrating these things. I know for a fact this dream about AI and oranges was probably because I have been eating a lot of vitamin C during the course of this little illness. And I love oranges. I ate some oranges. Also, I had a conversation last week on LinkedIn about AI, and some guy was asking me my opinions on whether AI was going to understand and feel emotion. And I was going back and forth. And during the nighttime, when my frontal cortex is sleeping, my brain, the subconscious, starts to put all these things together and formulate the memories, formulate the understanding that it will then take into the following day, all without my input, my conscious input, which is something that we should lean on, I think, as entrepreneurs. The things that you're consciously thinking about are not the end of the story. It's the things you're unconsciously connecting in the background, the conversations that you don't know matter so much until they come up again. Oh my gosh, I had that conversation. We are got to be in it for the long haul. Have to be in it for maybe some long-term character development or some long-term value creation. Then I think that creates a well-rounded individual and creates a well-rounded company that can withstand the test of time. And like we talked about, bring value in the world instead of just enriching the shareholder.
No doubt. I think if you want to see somebody that a client we're working with right now talks about the difference between reaching a certain age, pick whichever age you want, where you begin to just check out and decline. A lot of people do it in their 60s and 70s, particularly if you get older than that. And he said, I think we could all appreciate the difference between somebody who reaches their late 60s, early 70s and begins to check out and dies at early 90s versus somebody who lives a full steam life and dies in their early 90s, right? Live, and drop dead. That's what most of us would want to do.
Like the queen.
Mm-hmm. But is that what we see the majority of people? I don't know. I don't know statistically. I know we hear of far more people who check out way early and just gradually fade away into almost nothing. And that's not the life that I want at that age. And it's not what I would want for business either. I think I was helping some people recently talk through some content for innovation. And the same sort of thing came up. Your business can reach a point of maturity where it is all about optimization, just improving systems and processes that make you money around the clock. And a lot of businesses do that. And a lot of businesses have been wiped out by focusing only on that at the expense of innovation. And so the counsel we were trying to put forward was, if you reach the point where it's all about optimization, then you either need to create your own innovation department or partner with somebody who's out there trying to innovate in your space and build some kind of symbiotic relationship there where you are sponsoring the future of whatever product or service you've led the way in. Which, since we're talking about AI, I thought that Microsoft's partnering with OpenAI was a great example of that. They said, as opposed to, we'll build our own AI tool, no, we're just going to invest in the one that's leading the way, which I think will be helpful to them in terms of, I could be wrong, but I think it'll be helpful to them in terms of staying relevant long after they were the central focus of the technology revolution.
There's a book, I think it's called The Power of Play. I'm looking it up. And the idea was that it talked about games and how children learn through playing and how adults learn through play as well. But we think it's a child's thing. We're just going to go out and play. And then we're like, as an adult, I'm not going to go out and play. That's dumb. When in fact, it is playing is a all hands on deck, all your faculties at the forefront to engage with your world. Not only are you exercising a skill, you're getting better at that skill. Not only are you interfacing with other people, you're learning how to better interface with those people. You're learning how to win. You're learning how to lose. You're using your body many times. You are exercising new connections in your brain. It's the CrossFit of brain exercises.
When you're training your brain to enjoy challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the book, and I think there might be other books like this, but it talks about how adding play into work is important. Don't discount the fact that don't discount playing as though it's not beneficial, because it's beneficial over the long haul in ways that are not readily seen, because we don't see like this immediate applicable benefit, like sending your team on a team building day or something like that. We're going to learn to work as a team. Not in one day, you're not. Over 20 years, probably. But will you introduce some skills? Yeah, you'll introduce some skills. Will you have fun doing it? Yeah, you'll have fun doing it. And your brain is primed and ready to learn when it's having fun. And so I think let's winding this thing down for folks, like you talked about, Paul. The applicable things are to, I think, number one, keep your eye on why you're doing what you're doing. What's your end goal for you personally, and then for the people that you're surrounded with. Your organization should serve those needs. If it doesn't serve those needs, then adapt, and then also I think stay open to new input and new methods to explore. Be willing to explore, be curious, and be willing to engage your work with play. For lack of a better way to put it, with the orange thing, maybe it is the most suitable thing to plant an orchard and then say, hey, you can't have any of this except when we tell you to. So we make sure that everybody has it and it's not too much and all this other stuff. Or maybe you just plant some orange trees and say, hey, you know what? Orange trees arrived. Grab an orange when you want to. And then you learn to share. You learn to engage with other people, and you learn what it's like to feel left out, so that you don't do that with other people in the future. You learn all sorts of. I think you learn more when you might not be. This might be true. I think we learn more when we don't have any particular intent. I think that might be true.
Yeah. The greatest lessons I've learned are the ones I never would have sought out.
Yeah. I made a bread the other day because I had leftover rice that I had frozen. I cooked this rice, I froze it, and then I reheated it, and I stirred it too much. And it turned into this mash. And I thought it might. So it turned into this mash, and I thought, what am I going to do with that? And then I thought, you know what I'll do? I'll make like dumplings or something like that, deep fry them. And then that turned into, how do I get it reconstituted into some sort of structure like a bread that will actually turn into something? And over the course of playing around, I had added baking powder, I had added cheese, I had added a little hot sauce, I had added some salt and pepper, I added some more garlic, some more onion, and then it still wasn't quite what I needed to be. And I added flour, and then I was like, oh man, what's this turning into? Then I added yeast.
There you go.
And then I added more flour until I got a bread dough. And I tell you what, those were the best damn muffins I've had in a very long time. They had an amazing texture. It was fluffy and crispy and tasty. And it was all by accident. And now I'm like, you know what? I'm probably going to add some rice flour or make some rice and add it to some dough once in a while because of the texture that I got out of that. No, I can't imagine. If I was looking for biscuit recipes, I don't think there's a biscuit recipe out there that Google's going to be like, you know what you should do? You should add some rice to that.
That's straight out of What Could Be there.
Tasty.
I remember that, cook without a recipe, go on a trip when it isn't the right time.
Yeah, I think I don't know. For me, I learned more when I don't have any particular intent.
Just keep exploring, going down that rabbit hole.
And it gives you permission to explore then, which we all need. Nobody told us we should stop exploring. We told ourselves that at some point in time.
Yeah.
And then how much does that affect us today?
I think people did tell us to stop exploring, because when we explore as kids, usually it makes messes for our parents to clean up because we don't know how to clean up after ourselves. And so when we create an environment where we give ourselves permission to explore, and we also know that we need to live with the consequences and we need to clean up our own messes, then I don't know, I think there's that permission that we can give ourselves. So I do think it was ingrained into us to stop exploring, because exploring leads to messes. And so when we take ownership of those messes and are willing to clean them up ourselves, there's no limit to what we can explore and how we can explore.
I agree with you. I think it's the externalization. So we have to take this external message and then we internalize it. And so the opportunity is to figure out what we care to internalize as adults and what we don't need to, what we need to be able to question
we can trash
with curiosity and go, I don't need that anymore.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah. Well, it's like,
you don't like rice in your biscuits.
Yeah. Marie Kondo, every concept that we learned growing up, just that does not bring me joy. Out. That does not bring me joy or growth. Out. Just get it out of there. That halts my growth. That might bring me joy long term, but I don't feel like I'm going to grow with that one. Out. Just get it out of there.
And maybe also have some grace that we are not as smart as we think we are sometimes. And the things that we think are not adding value to our lives, and we are so quick to rid ourselves of, are actually the thing that we're just scared to address. And they might be one of our biggest great breakthroughs.
Yep.
Which is a topic for another day. Folks, this has been the workshop. Happens every Tuesday. I'm so grateful for our faculty members and colleagues and friends, Naomi and Paul, who could join us today. We're missing TC and Ryan. It's a time of sickness, but we trust that also even in the sickness, perhaps it's a message to us to slow down, or perhaps it's just life. We just need to make it through. But I'm so thankful for you guys joining all of our viewers and listeners here on the workshop. Catch us on YouTube, catch us at thinkergrowth.com. And as always, follow up with any of our faculty members if you need anything. I have a real tough time closing this one out. My brain is shutting down.
We will
Amen.
see you next time.
All right. That's it. That's the end of the recording, guys. Thanks.
Cheers.
Okay. All right. We'll see you guys later. I'm gonna
Okay,
go
bye.
take a nap and sleep
Yeah.
off this headache.
See you guys.
See ya.